Hello guys, I hope you are well. Today we are going to be discussing about Africa, a continent in poverty. It's unbelievable that nobody is talking about this. We don't understand why a whole continent should be in poverty. That is exactly what we need to discuss today and see the reasons why Africa is in this condition. The person that will help me today is a solicitor friend of mine, Mr. Bag. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
When you look at Africa, it has become normal. When you talk about Africa, what comes to mind is poverty and lack, and it shouldn't be so. And nobody is saying anything about it. What do you think is the problem with Africa?
Well, good day, viewers, and my name is Babalola. I'm a practicing solicitor here in the UK. In answering your question, I think one of the major things that we have that is the major problem in Africa is our culture. Our culture and our people. I won't talk about our leaders because, I've always been of this opinion that leaders, any society is a reflection, any leadership in a society is a reflection of that society. And what I mean is that leaders are picked from amongst the people. And if you see someone that has been having problems even before he became a leader, once he's a leader, that problem is going to be escalated. So I think one of the major problems we have in Africa, despite all the resources, despite all the human capital that we have, is about our culture. Our culture does not allow for free thinking. Our culture does not provide the environment to think outside the box. Our culture does not provide the environment to be innovative. So, and this accounts for one of the major reasons why Africa is backward. Coupled with the fact that we somewhat believe that whatever comes from outside is far better than what we have inwardly, and we've not been able to develop our own program that suits our people, that is peculiar to us in the way we do things, in the way imbibing our culture along with our thinking. Because one way we have this Western education, Western culture, another way we have our culture, which, most cases contradict each other. And because we've not been able to develop our own ways of thinking, we've not been able to develop our environment to make it conducive for thinking, so innovation is hampered. So I think that is one of the major problems that we have in Africa. If we have cultural reorientation, I believe that Africa will make progress in most of the things that we do.
Are you saying that we should stop the way we do things and change to another, change our culture, or is it we should import foreign cultures? What are you trying to explain? Is it that the problem is our culture, that we need to change our culture? We need to incorporate other people's culture to make Africa better. Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is that the only thing that is constant in life is change. And if our culture has not been able to evolve within the changing times that we found ourselves in this world, backwardness is not far from us. What I mean by this is that look at the culture of respect in Africa as a whole. It's more or less the same. And because we have this culture of respect, it's very, very good, but this has hampered us from being innovative, from being able to challenge the so-called constituted authorities. Because even if, when we see that things are going wrongly, we cannot challenge it because we believe that, this person, God has placed him, this person is above me. Now, when it comes to culture, if you look back over the years at our culture, before the Westerners came to colonize Africa, you discover that there are particular ways with which we do things. Like, for example, where I come from, which is in Nigeria, there is a way that we do things. There are things that we do, within the same culture, within the same environment that imbibes the culture, brings people together, create, that respect and bring about innovation. But now we are confused because we have our own culture on one hand and we have the Western culture on the other hand. And in order for us to fuse the two together, we've been having conflict. There is always a conflict, between people that were brought up within different environments. So, for example, if we look at our children, the children that were born in this country, we are taught, our children are taught that when someone is talking to you, you look directly into their eyes. But way back in Africa, the culture is that if someone that is older than you is talking to you, you have to look down. Meanwhile, within this culture, looking down is a sign that you don't have confidence in yourself. And because they believe that you don't have confidence in yourself, it's going to affect even you, your own psychology in the way you do things. And if you look back in Africa, you cannot challenge even when things are going wrong because the culture does not permit you. That is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying we should jettison our culture, no, but our culture we should be able to reorientate our culture to be able to move within the times.
What I'm saying here, if you understand what I'm trying to say, Africa is a continent, and this problem we have is affecting the whole continent. If you're talking about culture here, at least there's no country in Africa now that you will say is a developed country. Every single country in Africa is struggling. So something that affects the whole continent is far more than culture. If it's a culture thing, at least a country should have been able to get it right. But if you look into Africa now, if you mention Africa, what comes to mind is poverty, lack. And it shouldn't be so. This is a continent that is very blessed. So I think, from my own perspective, I think this problem is beyond culture. There is something behind. Even we are in Africa, we are practicing European. We are trying to practice European system of government that is not working, and is not working in any country in Africa. So I'm thinking that there's something behind this leadership thing that is causing this problem. In the sense that there is no single country in Africa that is doing well.
In fact, not only in Africa, there is no single black country that is doing well.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Yes.
I think that's something. Now, there's a problem with black man.
You see the problem. The problem of culture is prevalent within the African settings.
Yes.
It's everywhere within the African country. And because of this cultural orientation, there's nothing wrong in European culture. There's nothing wrong. But if you look at Africa, we are confused. There's nothing wrong with European system of government. Nothing is wrong with that government. But the question is it good for us? And if it is good for us, are we practicing it the way the Europeans are practicing it? Because we want to practice European system of government, which, in my own opinion, there's nothing wrong in doing that. But we want to practice that within our own culture. So if we are practicing that within our culture, there's definitely going to be a conflict. And this conflict is what is affecting all black countries. Because there is a conflict between what we were brought up and what we are still being brought up to believe in terms of our culture and the way the Europeans are doing things, and we are trying to fuse the two together. Our culture is not catching up enough with the system that we are trying to practice, so it brings conflict. There is nothing bad in having democracy. For everyone to participate in the system, there's nothing wrong. But there are so many things, like you said, that is behind this in terms of the way we think. If the environment is not proper for our thinking, if the environment does not give room for innovation, if the environment does not provide for, criticisms, to come up, then there is going to be problem. And that is what we are facing in all black countries.
Wow, that's interesting. I think that for me, there's something I call black man syndrome. The black man has a problem.
Yeah, have a problem. It's true.
It's innate in us, and this problem is a product of our history. The black man has never been free from slave trade to colonization. We have never been free. So when someone is hungry for a long time, if you give him food, he doesn't want to share it with anybody. I think that's the key from my own perspective. I think that's the major problem behind our problem in Africa.
Yeah, I agree with you.
People are so hungry that when they get into power, they don't want to leave here alone.
Yeah, but you see, we need to look beyond slavery. We need to seriously look beyond slavery. If you look at where our problems
but it's innate.
from,
it's innate. When something gets into
African,
you.
No, you see, what I'm trying to say is that Africa as a continent does not come being as a result of slavery. Slavery started in Africa in about 100 years ago. 150 years ago. But before that period, Africa has been,
but
as a continent.
We have never been free. We have never been free.
See, if we said we have never been free, before slavery, the Europeans were coming to Africa to do trade with us. They were coming to Africa. You see, I don't want us to go into this blame game. I want us to look at what actually is the problem with Africa, which I believe strongly is a conflict of culture. It's not about slavery. It's not about slavery at all, because for how long are we going to be playing the slavery card?
No, I'm not saying that the slavery imparted something in us that passes from generation to generation and it becomes innate in us. It makes us greedy. It's not that we are greedy because we are bad people. We are greedy because of the situation that we have been put into by all these bondages, from slavery to colonization to white man ruling us behind our own leaders. So people have become so greedy that when they get power, they don't want to share anything. A black man is so greedy, we are innately greedy that we cannot share anything with anybody. Even in this country we are in now, if a black man has an accident, he's likely to die because black people don't donate blood. We don't share anything. But it's not that we are bad people, but
it's a cultural. See, I'm not disagreeing with you. You are correct. What you are saying, we have turned it to be part of our culture. So that is what I'm saying. It has become a cultural thing for us to behave that way, to see things that way, to live our life that way. So it's a cultural thing, because when you keep practicing things for long, it becomes a cultural thing. It becomes innate in you. Yeah. And that is, you see, I'm not disagreeing. Slavery is one of the issues that we need to address in our cultural setting. So until we address that, until we address our culture, until we have a cultural reorientation as Africans, generally, Africa will continue to be where it is.
Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome. We'll
I hope you've enjoyed this. We'd like to hear your comment and also subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much.